So my focus today is going to be to talk to you about using Lean and Agile to get more efficient in organizations. In a general sense, that's process improvement, and I'll dive into the details of what that means. But the first thing is, who the heck is this guy? We just talked. This is our core group, so you guys kind of know some things, but I'll still walk through a little bit of history. So this is me and my wife Tess, and then our little puppy Nala, one of two. I have another little white one that if you've been on calls with me, you might have seen. And one cool thing about us is we just love going to Disney. We have a timeshare, we go on cruises down there, we love it. If you're really astute, you might notice two things about those photos. They look a little bit different. I look a little bit different. And that's because I went on a health journey from 2019 to 2020. I lost literally 100 pounds, almost to the day. And that is daily weight measurements across that year. You might notice, if you're really, really observant, you might notice one little anomaly on that chart. That's where I went on a cruise. Because, yeah, a cruise, I'm not dieting on a cruise, man. That's just not happening. So if you're into personality types, I'm an INFJ. The website 6turnpersonalities.com calls that an advocate. And I love that term because you'll hear through this that I love advocating for people. I love helping people to learn and grow and to discover more about themselves. So career-wise, I started my career in 1995 as an electronics engineer. I actually invented a product. It's called a wireless response and locating system for elder communities. Okay, you guys remember the commercial, I've fallen and I can't get up. We made a competitor to that, except it worked within communities. Okay, so I was growing that company. I started out as the engineer, right? Literally designing circuit boards, writing code, and all that kind of stuff. But I had an epiphany one day, and like all good things, it happened at church. I was walking across the courtyard of Rivercliff Lutheran Church, right down in Sandy Springs, and somebody came over and said, Sean, how would you like to go skiing for free? I'm a very active guy. So I live in Georgia, I've never been skiing. I'm like, skiing, I can deal with that. I know we're at church, so you're not lying to me, but free. Help me with free. What does that look like exactly? And they said, well, we're taking the youth group on a ski trip to Snowshoe, West Virginia. If you guys know where that is from here, it's like a 14-hour-ish drive. And they said, all you need to do, Sean, for this free ski trip is drive a 15-passenger van full of teenagers for 14 hours. And then you get to ski for free. I was like, all right, I don't want the kids to miss their ski trip or whatever. So I did that. But what I discovered on that trip is besides skiing, I really enjoyed working with the kids, talking with them about their faith walk, talking with them about their life at home, and really coaching and mentoring them. And I fell in love with the process of coaching and mentoring others and helping them learn and grow. I actually ended up running that youth group for several years after that. So that's what got me started in coaching. On the business side, as I grew that company, I started hiring engineers and technicians, and so I started coaching and mentoring them along the same way. In 2005, Philips purchased us. I hung out at Philips for another 14 years. They moved me up to Worcester, frickin' Massachusetts. It was cold, and all I wanted to do from day 3 was come home to Georgia. Eventually, I engineered that. We bought a company in Georgia, Philips did, and I was part of post-merger integration, came down here. I went on to Siemens, where I was an external consultant, went around selling Lean Agile process improvement, internal and external to Siemens. So I did a lot of Lean and a thing called SAFe or Scaled Agile, and I got that certification in 2016. So I have a couple other interesting certifications. I'm Coactive, that's literally like a life and leadership coach certification, and I got that while I was at Siemens. I'm also certified to use a certain personality assessment called PDP, which is great for leadership development, team building, and personality-based hiring. But the coolest certification I have is I am certified to play with Legos. One of the tools and techniques I use in my leadership development is called Lego Serious Play, and I had to go get certified for it. And so now I'm certified to play with Legos, and that's just super fun to say. So what I focus on today, all of that background has culminated to where I am today. I focus on process optimization using Lean and Agile, and that's what I'm going to take apart and tell you what they are. And I do leadership development and team building because you can't change processes without helping improve the people, right? So that kind of all bundles together. So what we'll do today, we'll talk about why process matters. We'll talk about Lean, 5 steps. We'll talk about Agile, particular mindset. Now these two are, I'm going to touch on them, but I really want you guys to come away with this, with one improvement you can go make based on some of the stuff that we talked about. Like one idea that you can change in your personal process, your business process, something like that. And we'll get to one particular slide where I think that'll happen. And then hopefully we have some fun along the way. I didn't bring Legos, but we're going to try to have some fun and so let me start with this. Why is process important? Why does process matter to businesses? What do you guys think? You can be consistent without accurate, right? So a lot of times when I come to an organization, their processes start kind of like this. Maybe I've got 10 people doing one thing 10 different ways, or one person who does it 10 times and does it a different way each time. And yet sometimes one is on target, but they're all over the place. This is really hard to improve. How would I improve this, right? If we're talking target shooting, the answer is, I don't know, just keep practicing. Like, that's all you can do with it. So it's inconsistent, inaccurate, unpredictable, and totally unscalable. To be able to scale, you need to be able to repeat, you need to be able to train others to do it. So a lot of times the first step with the process is to get it to look like this. Yes, we're off target, but we're off target by the same amount every single time, right? So in target shooting, you've created a cluster. You've got a tight grouping is what you're after. So now we're consistent, but we may not be accurate. And I'll tell you, that's fine. That's a beautiful first step, because now I can make little adjustments in the process by adjusting the instructions, by adjusting the sites, whatever it is, to move that grouping. So at this point, we've already become consistent, predictable, and scalable. I would question whether or not I should scale it if I'm off target, right? But you could do it if you wanted to. Then the second step is we become accurate and consistent. So once we've written down our processes, we're doing the same thing the same way every time. Now we make adjustments. The bottom line to this whole thing, you can't improve what you can't repeat. If you can't repeat it over and over, you cannot make it better, right? You've got to be able to do it over and over again. All right, so we're going to talk about two frameworks for moving through those three steps. One is Lean and one is Agile. So Lean comes out of Toyota Production System, and it's really about removing waste from the process. We're going to talk about 8 wastes, and that's where I'm going to challenge you guys to try to pick one. You're like, oh, I have some of that waste, and I can go figure out how to take care of it. Agile is really about executing the process, and executing it in such a way that you can respond quickly to changes when they happen. Okay, so they're two separate things. You'll hear people say Lean Agile or Lean Six Sigma. Six Sigma is a whole third thing we're not even going to talk about, but they're separate pieces. All right, so we're going to take them apart. When we put them together, it looks kind of like this. Lean is about processing, improving the process, and Agile is about executing the process. Okay, both of them have improvement components, but Lean is really about establishing and creating process, and Agile is really about executing the process. Okay. All right, so we're going to dive deep into the 5 steps of Lean. At an overview, the 5 steps are in this little circle. Correctly specify a value from the customer, identify the value stream, implement flow, move towards pull-based, and then pursue perfection. Which pursue perfection just means go on and on and on. Where did Lean come from? I think I said this, but let's see if you guys know or heard me say it. Where did it come from? Toyota. It came out of the Toyota Production System. Originally it was called the Toyota Production System. 2 guys named Womack and Jones went over and studied it and documented it, and then brought it back in a book called Lean Thinking. And the interesting thing is that perfection, the pursuit of perfection, to this day, Toyota implements hundreds of changes a day. They haven't hit perfection. It's a state of nirvana you can never reach, right? You have to continually move towards it. So we're going to take these steps apart. Some of them we're going to do pretty quickly. What would you define as value in any business? I can define value in any business in one sentence. How do you define value?
Happy client.
Happy client, okay. The client's a good word to have in there. What else? Pays you on time. Okay, pays and client. Value is what your client is willing to pay for. That's really what it boils down to, okay? So we have a Venn diagram. We do things right, we are making something better, and the customer is willing to pay for it. When I do this for manufacturing, I'll talk about, look, if we're going to manufacture an airplane, if we walk down the assembly line and say, all right, Mr. Customer, I could leave out the steering yoke and save you $500. How would you like that? They're kind of like, nope, I'm willing to pay for the steering yoke. But if you say, hey, I could stop shipping this airplane carcass from one building to another, and that'll save you $1,000, and they're like, yeah, knock that crap out, right? Value is the part the customer will pay for. That's really the bottom line to keep in mind when we're talking about Lean. and we talk about a process, you look at every step and say, would my customer pay for this step? If I remove the step and I deliver the same quality at the same speed, would they care? Leaving out the steering yoke, they would care. Removing extra steps and documents, they may not care, right? So anything they're willing to pay for is defining value. From there, we want to map the value stream. Now there's a lot on the screen all at once. This is a particular chart called a value stream map, and it maps the steps of a process from one end to the other. What's different from this, from a normal process map, is the data that's on it. We have data on here. Here's some key ones. We have how long each step takes. We have how long things wait in between the steps. The cycle time is how long it takes to get from one end to the other in total. And then we make a ratio of how much time is whatever we're making. If we're making a contract, if we're making a car, if we're making a piece of software, how much time is it being worked on compared to how much time is it just sitting around waiting, right? Value added time and non-value added time. And we create ratios. So you can see that this particular one is 96% NVA, non-value added. 96% waste. Now I'm going to take a quick detour. What would happen if I just came in and automated this just like it is? What would that mean? I automated 96% of my waste. I'm wasting even faster now. That's awesome, right? So the first thing we should do, I love automation, huge fan of automation, of AI, and all these great tools that are coming out, but you've got to move through a process. I just use an acronym that doesn't spell anything, but it's ERCA. Eliminate steps, reduce waste, combine things, and finally automate. Eliminate, reduce, combine, and only at the end automate, right? What is cool is I actually have an AI-powered tool for value stream mapping. I could describe to it, hey, okay, I write sales contracts for such and such and such and such. It'll give me a value stream map that's about 80% right, and then we can run a workshop to correct it. And that has taken workshops from multiple days down to half a day to 1 day. It's very cool. All right, so once we've got the value stream map, the main deal here is we've made this visible. I'll run a value stream mapping workshop, and sometimes I could just stop right there. I've already brought value to the business because I'll get in a room and I'll be like, all right, what's step 4? And I'll get 3 different answers. I'm like, all right, let's hash this out. By the time we create a map of one process and everybody's like, oh, okay, we're gonna do it that way from now on, that in itself can be an improvement, right? So just visualizing this. All right, so this is where I want to spend the most time in Lean, is on this one particular slide. So there's three things that cause delays. Muda, Muri, Mura. They're Japanese words, they're fun to say. Muda is waste, and that's one we're going to dive into, but the other 2 are good to know about. Mura is unevenness, so cyclical natures of business, right? Things that come and go, either day shift versus night shift, spring versus summer. Where it's cyclical, how can we balance that out? How can we load balance? And if you can't, like if you're a toy manufacturer, Christmas is just the busiest time of the year. You can't even that out. But how do we predict for it? How do we make sure that we scale up and scale down properly, right? And there's tools we have for that. Muri is overburdened. It means we're asking people or things, machines, to do more than they can do. It leads to burnout, it leads to errors, it leads to emissions, it leads to problems, okay? So we want to find those and eliminate them where we can. Muda is broken down into 8 wastes. 8 wastes is this guy named Tim Woods. We all hate Tim Woods. He's a problem. So here's the 8 wastes, and now this is where I'm going to slow down. I know I've been going fast. I'm going to slow down here. Each one of these, what I want to do is talk about a physical example and a digital example, okay? Because they exist in both worlds. Admittedly, this came from manufacturing, Toyota, right? They're making cars. But I've been on 3 manufacturing projects in my life. Everything I do is back end. Sales order processing, invoicing, creating marketing material, creating software, phone support, IT deployment. Those are the things that I've worked on. Very few manufacturing floors, although it's fun to do a manufacturing floor because you can see the stuff, and I like stuff. All right, transportation. What's the physical example of transportation? What do we mean? Moving something from A to B, putting a piece of cargo on a truck, putting it on a conveyor belt, moving it from the back of the room to the front of the room, moving a thing. That's important, because later we'll talk about something else. What's it in the digital world? Yeah, email, storing files, putting them around on different drives, thumb drives if you still do that, right? Moving data around. Every time something moves, you should question, is that value added? Do I need to be doing that? How could I reduce or eliminate that need for that move? If I'm moving something from here to there, why? Can I move those pieces of equipment better? If I'm emailing something, why? Can they not work on it together? Can it, maybe a shared doc would be better? I don't know, right? With transportation, one of the first ways. How about inventory? What would that be physically? That's pretty easy. Parts in the warehouse, but what else? Inventory counts everything along the way. So in the manufacturing line, all the stuff on the line is inventory or WIP, right? In the digital world, very similar. If I'm making a document, if I'm making a piece of software, or if I'm making software, the other inventory is features I make that nobody uses, right? That's just inventory. Inventory is good. Inventory assures I have supply when I need it. Why is it listed as a waste? It's money sitting on the shelf. Little piles of dollars just chilling out, not working for you, not making anything, right? So we want inventory to be minimized, but not to the point that we can't fulfill customer needs. Now, transportation was the movement of stuff. So what do you think motion is?
People.
Movement of people. A person walking from here to there. Physical environment, right? Move into a different office, walk into a meeting. That's movement. So one little project that somebody did one time, they counted the number of steps that people in the office had to take to get to the coffee machine. And they calculated and showed how much money that was costing and convinced the office to put in a second coffee machine because it was waste of motion, right? How about in the digital world though? If I'm not walking around, if I sit at my desk all day, I got no motion. If I have to, if I'm making an invoice and I stood over somebody's shoulder, what would I be looking for on their screen? What would I be watching when it comes to motion? How many different systems they have to Alt-Tab, Control-Click, 5 different screens? Where are they having to physically move their mouse? How many platforms, right? I did one project, it was a call center, and it was an emergency safety call center, like 911 kind of stuff. And we counted how many Alt-Tabs and clicks and cuts and pastes these operators had to do, and it was ridiculous. So we did an optimization where we added macros and a bunch of stuff and got it down to where most of the stuff was on one screen, and it saved tons of time, right? So motion, movement of people. The easy one, waiting. What are the 2 things that can be waiting? People and product, right? Either one. Any waiting is bad, but some of it you can't. Like if I'm waiting for an external vendor, okay, but can I talk to them? Can I rearrange my process to not be waiting for them? What can I do about it? And when people are waiting, it's like going to the doctor's office for a 9 o'clock appointment, and at 9:45, they're like, we'll see you now, right? Anytime there's waiting, it's waste, right? Digital world, what could it be in the digital world? Could be downtime, system downtime, right? Could be waiting for an email to show up. Waiting for approvals is a big one in the kind of digital space, right? Oh, 12 different people have to approve this. Why? Really? Does it really need to happen that way? Overprocessing. Physical example would be, giving it 8 coats of paint when after 3, it's really done. You're not making any difference. This is kind of gold plating things, if you will. What could it be in a digital world? I think I gave the example already, but what would overprocessing be in a digital world? Reports nobody reads, features nobody uses, contracts nobody reads. I literally had one IT director, and once a year, he'd shut off the reporting engine for the company. And he'd be like, I just wait. And a handful of people come and say, hey, I didn't get such and such report today. I really know. He's like, oh, you know what? I noticed it didn't run. Let me fix it for you. He turned that report back on. He said he turned on about 20% of the reports every year. The other 80, nobody noticed, nobody cared, right? Overprocessing. Just doing it for the sake of doing it because we've always done it. How about overproduction? Yes, you've hit it. So every time you overproduce, you've re-invoked every other waste in your process, right? So where you were going, the transportation, the inventory, motion, you've re-tagged every single one of those with every unit of overproduction. Overproduction is the most costly one on here because it invokes everything else. What about defects? Pretty easy in the mechanical world, right? I made it wrong, the bolt doesn't fit, it's crooked, it's wrong color, whatever. So defects, physical defects, what about, and in the software world is easy, right? It's a defective piece of software. But what about in other processes that are not delivering a piece of software? Any bad documents, bad processes, right? Incorrect sales quotes, incorrect invoices, marketing that's misleading, whatever. There's all kinds of defects. Somewhere there's a problem in the process. So in Lean, there's so many tools and words, but there's one called poka-yoke, and poka-yoke is about error-proofing the process. You guys all remember leaded and unleaded gas, right? I couldn't say that in all rooms, but you guys do. Do you guys remember anything about the gas pumps and leaded and unleaded gas? They were different diameters. You couldn't put one into the other, and I forget which. I think you couldn't put unleaded into a leaded car, but you could put leaded in an unleaded car because it didn't matter. It would ping, but that's about it. So that's error proofing. It was impossible to make the error. Yeah, diesel's even bigger. You can't put diesel in anything but diesel. Yeah. So that's part of what we want to do is make the process error proof. You know, what can we put in? Okay, it's got to fit through this hole. If it fits through the hole, it's good. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Grammar checks maybe count for something like that. All right, and then skills underutilized. Where we're aiming with this is something like, I don't know, having your senior engineer writing low-level code, right? Or having your VP of sales working on a $3 deal, right? You're underutilizing what they have. So how do I get more people engaged in the creative process? And how do I use people at the appropriate level, delegate where appropriate, and all things like that? So this is the slide where I really feel like if you just think through these, if you think through processes you have at home, processes you have at work, this is where, oh, maybe one of these is something I could look at. I feel like I might have some of that now that we talked about it. You know, when I do exercises with this in groups, they're like, well, is this overproduction or overprocessing? I mean, I don't care really. These are just lenses to help you look at it. Do I care if you call it the right one? Nope. All I care is that you found it and we decided we should eliminate it, right? So I like the use of inventory to think of your calendar. All right, so remove the waste. This is our step 3. The last 2 steps, I actually just combined them. I'm gonna kind of blow through them really fast. Push versus pull. In a push system, you build to inventory and then things take it out of inventory. So you're pushing. Whether you're talking about the next step in the process or you're building to inventory, okay? Whereas pull, yes, there's one in inventory, but when it goes away, then you make one to replace it. And you got to figure out what I'm saying 1, it could be 10, it could be 100, 1,000, I don't know what the number is, but it's making it so that the system only refills itself. You don't build ahead, right? And it takes a long time to get there. And then of course the last one was pursue perfection, just continuously do this. I like to use this word, relentless improvement. I feel like it has a different connotation than continuous improvement. What do you guys think? What do you feel like the difference in that word is? Relentless is much more forceful, intentional, right? Continuous, you're like, oh, yeah, it's continuous, okay, whatever. Relentless is like, go get it. So I like relentless. Any parting questions on Lean? I mean, this is an overview. There's a ton more to it, but. All right, so Agile's gonna go a little bit faster here. So Agile mindset, just a couple quick things about it. When I show you what Agile is, what are things that have you guys heard things about Agile in the software world? What are some general ideas you've heard about it? Anybody know anything? Like, oh, we ship a new product every 2 weeks and we have to meet every day, and yeah, those are one way to do it. But when I show you what Agile is, which everything of Agile is in the next 4 slides. It's just a mindset, a philosophy. It has no procedure to it. It's just a general idea. Then there's ways to do it, Scrum and Agile, Scrum and Kanban being the 2 most common. But Scrum and so here's your SAT thing for the day. Scrum and Kanban are to Agile as Honda Civic is to automobile, right? So Agile is just it's automobile. It's like, okay, what does that mean? It's a set of 4 values, 12 principles. The whole thing's less than 500 words. It's very short. It was a response to the inflexibility of waterfall, and I won't dive deep into the 4 values. I did a whole little video on them, but we'll talk about them. And it's been around since 2011. Oh, sorry, 2001. Definitely 2001. Yeah, it's 10 years old. Overall, what we're trying to do is deliver the right thing faster by responding to change, not by going faster. Okay. So I'm going to talk through the 4 values pretty quickly, but these are the 4 values. And the way you read this is we value the thing on the left more than the thing on the right, but we still value the thing on the right. Okay, and that's important. A lot of people start to lose sight of that. Agile extremists, and I'll talk about that. So the first one, we value individuals and interactions over process and tools. I'll try this once or twice, and if it doesn't take, I'll just keep talking. What do you think? What is the problem that solves? What would happen if it were reversed? What if we valued process and tools over individuals and interactions? Yes, loud shout, right? Lose flexibility, and I know that's the right thing to do, but the tool won't let me, the process won't let me. So this is meant to combat that. We want to value individual interactions, the things that they need to do, but we need tools and processes. I mean, there's really great tools out there, and I mean, yes, I love Post-it notes, but you don't run $1 million company on Post-it notes, or $1 billion company on Post-it notes, right? You need tooling. So we need tooling and processes, but individual interactions are the boss. Second one, we value working software, or really we value working product, think of it that way, over comprehensive documentation. This is because when this was written, we would spend months and months and months creating documents, and then start to create the product and realize, oh crap, the documents are all wrong, right? So what we want to do here is create something that works and document it properly. So this is a little bit about what do you do first? A lot of documents, or make it work? Make it work and then document it. Make it work and then document it. This is when where agile extremists will come in and say, oh, documents are on the right, we don't do documents. Yeah, a lot of my clients were medical devices, we did plenty of documents, right? You just do them the right way. Collaboration over negotiation. What are the 2 kinds of parties at the end of a negotiation? There's a blank and a blank. There's a winner and a loser at the end of a negotiation. I beat that guy up and got the best price. Oh, that guy was a sucker. I got so much money from him, right? That's what used to be the focus, right? Dealing with clients, car salesmen, the stereotypical back in the 80s or whatever. We really want to focus on collaborating. How do we connect with our customer, take them on a journey with us? A lot of times I'll associate this with contract negotiation is like McDonald's. You come up to the little box, you say, give me a Big Mac, and you drive around and they give you a Big Mac, and that's the end of it. This is more like Subway. Oh, I'll take that lettuce and that tomato. No, give me the other slice of tomato, and I'll take that and that and that. You're bringing the customer along with you, right? That's what we want to see here. But yes, we still have to have contracts, right? And then the 4th one, responding to change over following the plan. This is another one where agile extremists will abuse it. They'll say, oh, we don't make plans, we just start doing stuff. Cowboy coders is what we call them. But that's not the deal. We make a plan, but then as we're executing, we change the plan as necessary. There's 2 good quotes for plans. Let's see, you guys are very astute people. That is Mike Tyson. And that is one of the 2 I'm fishing for, especially when he's the one doing the punching, man, right? The other one, Churchill, is no plan survives first contact with the enemy, right? So plans change, and that's what this is about. These next 3 slides, I'm not going to read them because there's 12 things and I don't have time, but I pre-sent these. Did anybody look at them and read one and go, what the heck does this mean? Or how would this apply to my company? As you say, go back to we defined value as what the customer will pay for. So I had one client, we were putting, I've done a lot with medical stuff, right? We updated monitors in NICUs, okay? The monitors connected to babies. And we said, hey, we could do a new release there, every week, every month. And they were like, the bleep you will. Every time you do it, I need to put a nurse in each room next to the monitor so that while it's down for 30 seconds or whatever the timing is, that baby is protected. So it costs me so much money. You will release no more than twice a year. That was their definition of value, right? So to your point, value, go all the way back to the second, 3rd slide, whatever the customer will pay for it. They're not going to pay for it to show up on Sunday because they're not going to work. Also, delivery of value. So this was originally aimed at software development, admittedly, right? So what they meant here is show them Subway. Show them along the way what you're doing. That's value. Even if they can't use it yet, showing them and say, is this what you meant? Oh yeah, but I would like it rotated, blah, 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 blah. That's value. Along the way towards actual delivery. That's kind of what that top one's aimed at. 10 is one of my favorites. So what do you guys think? So 10 says, don't do your work, right? What the heck? What do you think 10 is about? 10 is aimed at engineers. 10 is aimed at engineers. Stop gold plating the thing.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. Customers will use it like it is. Let it go, right? So 10 is really aimed at engineers. A little bit of product managers also. Don't request 12 features that they don't need. The other one, I'll touch on 12, Will, but the other one that most people will talk about is 8 because of the word it ends with. Indefinitely. 8's aimed at firefighting. You shouldn't be firefighting, you shouldn't be eating bonbons, you should be nice, constant pace that you can just maintain until you die because we work until we die, right? That's the indefinitely one there. 12, at regular intervals, we reflect. So this is, if we go back to Lean, this is called Hansai. It's looking in at yourself, looking in at your team and figuring out what can I do better at an interpersonal level, at a procedural level. And really, this is one of the ones that ties back to Lean because we should look through a Lean lens at what we just did for the last 2 weeks, the last month, the last quarter, and say, how can I make it better? Even if I'm great, how do I get greater, right? What can I do a little bit better? And they need to be prompted to do it, right? And I'm a big one for, even if, so if Lear says, oh, I'd increase my confidence, I kind of a BPH. Scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence now? 5, what would a 6 look like? Okay, what would a 4 look like? Okay, cool, what are we gonna do, right? And then I ask them the same question again later. So I'm a big one for making everything measurable, even if it's kind of a soft skill thing. So that's all of Agile. That is everything. These 12 sentences, these 4 values. Where in here did it tell you how to do anything? It didn't, right? It's just a mindset. So there's 2 main ways to do this, and this is, one is called Scrum and one is called Kanban. Scrum is great for work that we mostly know in advance. I'm gonna make a piece of software. Okay, I know what I'm trying to get to. It's got 3 roles, funky one called a Scrum Master, which is really the coach of the team. A person called a Product Owner controls the backlog. They get to say what order things are more important. And then of course, the team itself that does the work, whatever it is. And then there's 5 events. Refinement is looking at the backlog, putting it in order, getting it ready. Planning is figuring out what you're gonna do, usually for 2 weeks, typical sprint time. You have a daily meeting where the team comes together with the Scrum Master Product Owner and we all talk about how's it going? What's going on? Did you finish the thing you meant to finish? Are you gonna work on the thing next? Anything in your way? At the end, we do a demo. We look at what we did and we do a retro. We look at how we did it, right? And so that's kind of quick brush of Scrum. Kanban is best for ad hoc work. For example, fixing broken laptops. I can't put on my calendar next Wednesday, Clarence's laptop's gonna break. If that happens, it ain't my fault. Just saying. So we just show up every day and work on what's the next thing in the queue. So it's very queue-based. We visualize it with this thing called a Kanban board. We actually use a Kanban board in Scrum also. But we make it visible so we can see what work needs to be done, what's in process, who's working on what. There's usually swim lanes for prioritization. Like if the CEO's laptop breaks, that's just more important by nature. So there's an expedite lane for that kind of thing. So these are 2 different ways to implement Scrum to bring those values into life, right? I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not going deep into those. So I want to do a pulse check. Did you get an idea? Was this helpful? Do you think you're like, oh, you know what? I could go look through the lens of Tim Woods or through this particular lens and make some improvement. I help companies use what I just showed you, which is to say skimming the waters. Even that's an overstatement. What I just did with this stuff. That always involves change management, so I coach teams and leaders through the change, and that's where Legos come in. I'll help that with some change management, some leadership coaching, some team development, and I'll do standalone leadership development and team building events as well, right? So if you just want a fun event for a team, reach out. I'll bring a crap ton of Legos, and we will play and have fun. So kind of a call me when you've got something that's too owner-centric, so they're not able to grow, or if they're trying to exit. And they get no valuation because the owner's got to do everything. Lean and Agile can help fix that. If delivery can't keep up with sales, so if you get their sales engine cranking and they're like, oh crap, we've got to deliver all this now, I can help with the delivery side. If they're losing money because of defects, right, between Lean and Agile, we've got ways to fix up defects. Individual teams or leaders not performing, or they're new and they need to be built up, or you just want a fun team building event. If you go to this QR code, it takes you to my link tree, and I think the second or third thing down says download the 8 wastes. So it's a PDF, and it's got 1 page per waste, and then this kind of self-evaluation chart. There's also one for leadership on there too. All right, and hopefully you had fun. I tried to go with the right amount of speed and interact with you guys and keep things going. I didn't bring Legos, but maybe next time. And then the last slide, really, this is just so that it's here when you get the deck, but it's on my contact info and stuff. So thank you guys very much. I had fun. That's